politicians.
වෙනස් වර්ගයක දේශපාලන නායකයෝ අපිට අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. තරුණ, උගත්, හොරකම් නොකරන, දේශපාලනයේ බිස්නස් එකක් නොකර ගන්න.
Starting off with a look at your top stories. As you all know, the COVID-19 vaccine from India is currently in Sri Lanka. A number of inoculation programs were launched for the frontline healthcare workers initially. However, the inoculation program for parliamentarians against the COVID-19 vaccine began today.
The parliamentarians were given a jab of the AstraZeneca COVID Shield vaccine at the Army Hospital in Hambantota. A group of MPs, including Minister Mahinda Amaraveera, State Minister Susil Premajayantha, MPs Mayantha Disanayaka, Harshana Rajakaruna, Tissa Attanayaka, Dilip Vedarachi and Palani Digambaram received the vaccine this morning. Sergeant-at-Arms of Parliament Narendra Fernando confirmed that 19 MPs received a jab of the vaccine today. The inoculation program of parliamentarians will be conducted for 4 days.
This is very good because the COVID-19 virus has spread vastly across Sri Lanka and we move around with the general public a lot. It is good for our safety as well as the safety of the general public. The inoculation program for the MPs began after the inoculation program began for the general public, so there is no issue here. The entire population will be vaccinated.
Meanwhile, a group of MPs have rejected the opportunity to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. This group of MPs include Harin Fernando, Mujibur Rahman, Heshavethana, Manushanana Akara and Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage.
I am not going to obtain the vaccine right now. Instead of getting this vaccine as part of a privilege of being an MP, I would rather hope for the general public of the country to be vaccinated and be safe from the virus. I believe that this vaccine must be given to people in areas that face a high risk. We were informed about this a week ago. I have still not received the vaccine. Politicians should not be always given priority.
Meanwhile, the COVID-19 vaccine was administered to the residents living in high-risk zones within the Colombo city limits. State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID-19 Disease Control, Specialist Dr. Sudarshini Fernandopoulos said that the vaccination program was carried out covering several Gramaniladari divisions in Campbell Park, Borella. According to the mayors of Colombo, Rosisena Naika, 5,000 COVID-19 vaccines have been received to carry out the vaccination program within the city limits.
As of now, residents above the age of 30 are being given the vaccine because according to the statistics in our country, a higher number of patients are being reported in the age group between 30 to 64. Only 10% of cases are being reported above the age of 60. We will be giving the vaccine to people who are above the age of 60 as well as the people in the age group of 30 to 60. Through this, we will be able to bring back normalcy into the country.
The vaccine was given to the prison officials attached to the Department of Prisons as well.
One thing that we should keep in mind is that even though you receive this vaccine, you have to continue to adhere to the health guidelines. You cannot remove your mask, refrain from maintaining a 1 meter distance and start travelling after getting the vaccine. A lot of people said that the country would be under lockdown for 2 to 3 days, but we have never taken a decision like that. There is no need for the general public to panic unnecessarily, but the people should be vigilant about this matter. If the people ignore the health guidelines completely, we will have to impose restrictions on meetings, functions, funerals and weddings when it comes to attendance.
Professor Channa Jayasumana has been appointed as the Acting Minister of Health. Professor Channa Jayasumana was sworn in as the new Acting Minister of Health today at the Presidential Secretariat. According to the President's Media Division, Professor Channa Jayasumana has been appointed as Acting Minister until Minister of Health Pavitra Vanyarachi reports back to work. The Minister of Health Pavitra Vanyarachi, who was receiving treatment for COVID-19 at the IDH, was discharged today.
Journalists questioned the government regarding the final decision on the burial of COVID-19 victims at the cabinet press briefing held today.
කොරෝනා මృතදේහ භූමදානය කිරීම සම්බන්ධව අගමැතිතුමා පසුගිය දිනක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී ප්‍රකාශ කරා. ඊට දින දෙකකට පසුව නෙළුම් මාවත මේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රධාන මාධ්‍ය සාකච්ඡාවේදී පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීතුමියක් ප්‍රකාශ කර කෙවුවා අගමැතිතුමාගේ ප්‍රකාශය වළංගු නැහැ කියලා.
අගමැතිතුමා ප්‍රකාශ කළේ
The Prime Minister stated his aspirations. He expressed his agreement for burials. But at the end, it's not the Prime Minister or the Cabinet that makes the decision. The official in charge of the COVID-19 victims is the Director General of Health. Until the Director General of Health consults his technical committee and gathers the recommendations, we will not change the existing regulations.
දැන්ට පවතින රෙගුලාසියේ වෙනසක් සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
We like to say that the Prime Minister made that statement with the knowledge of the recommendations of the technical committee. In the committee report submitted by Professor Jennifer Pereira, it says that the burial should be done within 24 hours. The body cannot be embalmed. Only 4 members of the family will be allowed, and if it is for the Buddhists, Pansakula can be given. The committee of 9 members have made a unanimous decision providing scientific facts that even people of other religions can conduct religious observances within 5 minutes, abiding by the health guidelines. The recommendations were made by microbiologists and virologists. These people came into Parliament clinging on to the shoulders of the Prime Minister, showing the port tour. They don't have people on their side. We are really disappointed that now they are preparing to blindside him, because even though we don't agree with the politics of Mahinda Rajapaksa, as a state leader and a person with great knowledge about the world and world politics, it disappoints us to know that there are some narrow-minded people in the government that do not understand his broad vision.
The annual award ceremony of the General Sir John Kothalavilla Defence University was held this evening under the auspices of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Traditional Sri Lankan Kandyan dancers.
The President was welcomed by the Vice Chancellor of the Kothalavilla Defence University, Major General Milinda Piris, the Secretary of Defence, commanders of the Triforces and the Superintendent of Police also attended the event. The President awarded certificates to the students and medals to those who excelled in colours.
Current university entrance system, which was designed around resource limitations at the university level, must change as the capacity of our universities expand. As outlined in the Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor policy document, enhancing the capacity of our higher education system through investment in infrastructure, technology and human resources is a key aim of my government. By increasing the capacity of universities, there will be opportunities for more students to access higher education. They should be able to do so without having their future determined purely by the Z-score they obtained through their performance at the advanced level examinations. In the future, while the University Grant Commission must still play a key role in ensuring that the quality and standards of education at universities remain high, individual institutions should be granted greater autonomy in their operations. The governing body, Vice Chancellor, faculty and the staff of each university should have more freedom to determine, design, manage and deliver their programs of study. Talented students too should have more freedom to choose their universities. These changes will increase the competition that exists among the universities at every level, leading to significant overall improvement across the entire higher education system.
Meanwhile, the construction of the Mahakitullah and Mahakirah reservoirs under the northwestern provincial Mahala project was launched by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today. This project includes the construction of a 90-kilometre long canal, the Mahakirah and Mahakitullah reservoirs that are 25 metres in depth and 5 underground tunnels. The project aims to provide water to 4 major tanks and 300 minor tanks in the Galevela, Polpitigama, Mahava and Ahatuava divisional secretariats during both cultivating seasons by year 2024.
As all of you know, while we were fighting one of the most gruesome terrorist groups in the world, we did not for one moment halt the development activities in the country. When we ended the war, soldiers came back to the south travelling across districts that were developed. Our hope is to build a developed and healthy country in this world that has fallen ill. That is our hope. Remember that it is the same people who tried to obstruct us during the war who are now trying to pull our legs when we are responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. After the end of the war, you will remember that the government of good governance signed agreements to bring human rights charges against our soldiers. They are preparing to create a situation where our soldiers will not be able to even seek employment overseas. We are ready to face this situation as well. We are working fast even in the middle of this pandemic.
Land deeds were also presented to the area residents during the event.
We'll now cross over to a short commercial break. We will be back with more news on the other side.
Ash Wednesday service by His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, Wednesday the 17th at 12:15 p.m. at St. Anthony Shrine, Kochikade, will be telecast on TV1 from 1:30 p.m.
Before we head into more stories, there is an important point that I want to focus your attention on. There are several projects that are being carried out in the country with the intervention of major superpowers. Let me draw your attention to the northern part of our country. There is a project that is being discussed at the moment where islands will be used for an energy project done by the Chinese. In the south, there is the port that is held by the Chinese, leased to the Chinese. And here in Trincomalee, there are oil tank farms that are being used by India for their purposes and for commercial purposes. And when you come to the west, the Sri Lanka port, there are two terminals that are being discussed, the East Container Terminal and the West Container Terminal. Now, the West Container Terminal is going to be developed with the support of India and Japan. That is what we know at the moment. With this being the case, let me draw your attention to the Hambantota port. Now, this has been leased out to the Chinese for a period of 99 years, and this of course is considered a place very strategically important to our country because of where it is located. And now there are reports coming out of a naval base that was located within the port being moved out.
The Ceylon today on the 7th of February reported on a decision to shift a Navy camp currently situated within the area of the Hambantota port that was leased to the Chinese. Quoting the chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, Daya Ratnayaka, the newspaper said the Navy base, according to the agreement, was on the Chinese leased land. An inquiry was made regarding this at the cabinet press briefing held today.
පීඩි ශ්‍රී ලංකා නාවික හමුදා කඳවුර ඉවත් කරගන්න කියලා ඉල්ලීමක් කළා දිනවද ඒ අනුව මේ වෙනකොට ඒක කඳවුර ඉවත් කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු යොදලා දිනවද කියලා දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
ඇත්තෙන්ම
Actually, when our government came into power during the discussions held between the president and the Chinese, a decision was reached to give the complete responsibility of the protection of the Hambantota port to the Sri Lankan Navy. Therefore, there is no question regarding the removal of the Navy camp.
නාවික හමුදා කඳවුර ඉවත් කිරීම පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක් පැනනගින්නේ නැහැ.
However, the Frontline Socialist Party alleged that around 15,000 acres from the Hambantota port is expected to be handed over to China. They have planned and signed agreements to hand over 15,000 acres from the Hambantota port to China. This includes the area between the 100 feet road and the Gonalua road, 7,000 acres in the Hambantota harbour and another 8,000 acres in the Demalia and Vandama areas in the Munaragala district. This means there is a total of 15,000 acres in the Hambantota and Munaragala districts expected to be given to Chinese companies.
There is a debate surrounding the decision to allocate 3 islands in Jaffna for a power generation project as a joint venture with a Chinese company. According to the cabinet proposal approved on the 18th of January, the islands of Nagadeepa, Delf and Analethivu will be allocated for the construction of a hybrid renewable energy generation project. Approval was granted to award the project to the company named Sinosaur Echwin Joint Ventures. Our reporters reached the area allocated for this project on the Delf Islands. A 12-acre plot of land has been allocated for this project on the island that spans across 47.5 square kilometers. The island is home to 4,060 people belonging to 1,329 families. Their main modes of income are fishing and tourism-related businesses.
Welcome to the island
of Delft in the Jaffna Peninsula, one of the largest islands in the Jaffna Peninsula. Now I am standing here in the heart of Delft, right on the border of a site which is allocated for a proposed wind-solar hybrid energy power plant project. Now why is this project at the center of controversy? The reason is, recently the Sri Lankan Cabinet of Ministers had obtained a proposal with respect to awarding these projects to Chinese companies. Now India in the recent past has also voiced its protest over the decision taken by the Sri Lankan government over the proposal. Now 3 such projects are in the works or in the books, and I'm right here in the border, which has been marked with these pillars, as you can see around me, for this proposed solar wind hybrid energy power plant project in the heart of Delft. For the Newsfirst team with cameraman Mahinda Gamage, I'm Zulfik Farzan reporting from the Delft Island.
Currently, power is supplied to the Delft Islands through a diesel power plant. Residents of the Thirulingampuram village, located on the outskirts of the land allocated for the proposed hybrid power generation project, said that they are unaware of this project. However, many of the residents are of the view that conducting this project with a Chinese company would cause many adverse effects on their livelihood.
Delft
is the largest island in the Jaffna Peninsula. This island is located 42.5 kilometers away from Rameshwaram, India. The Delft Island is only 15 kilometers away from the mainland. It was confirmed during a cabinet media briefing today that there is no change in the government decision to allocate these 3 islands for a solar power generation project in a joint venture with a Chinese company.
Cabinet has approved the award of tender to a Chinese company after a competitive bidding process. Thereafter, Minister has not informed the Cabinet that he wants to pause that decision or cancel that decision. So we think that the decision prevails.
While attention is being drawn to China and the Chinese intervention in Sri Lanka and major development projects that are being carried out in Sri Lanka with the support of the Chinese government or Chinese aid or some form of support from the Chinese, there is also the problem with regard to India. Now we know that these are 2 superpowers in our region that are having interests of their own. But the question now is, who is going to protect the interests of our country, our motherland, Sri Lanka? Now this was a statement made yesterday with regard to extending the power of India in Sri Lanka and Nepal. Let's first have a listen to this voice cut from the Chief Minister of Tripura.
তো এমনিতে কালো চা খায়, মানে কালো কফি, ব্ল্যাক কফি খাচ্ছে আর বলছে, बोले আমরা বলছিলাম কে জানি বললো আমাদের মধ্যে অজয় জম্বালে, बोले अध्यक्ष जी बहुत स्टेट हमारे पास अच्छा हो गया। अरे काहे अच्छा हो गया, अभी श्रीलंका बाकी है नेपाल बाकी है। मैंने उस आदमी को बोलता है ये तो क्या ना जिसमें बोलता है ये तो हो गया देश का, तो वो तो कर ही लेंगे। श्रीलंका है, नेपाल है, वहां भी तो पार्टी के लेके जाना, वहां भी जीतना है। तो जार मध्य एमन जोश एमन मानसिकता जहां पूरे दुनियाते भारतीय जनता पार्टी के निये जेते होबे और उनार राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष काले ही भारतीय जनता पार्टी दुनियार सबचेয়ে বড় পার্টি হয়েছে, যেটা কমিউনিস্টের অহংকার ছিল, দুনিয়ার মধ্যে সবচেয়ে বড় পার্টি কমিউনিস্ট পার্টি, আর সেই পার্টির অহংকার ভেঙে ভারতীয় জনতা পার্টির তৎকালীন অধ্যক্ষ অমিত ভাই সাহেব প্রমাণিত করেছে দিয়েছেন যে ভারতবর্ষের মধ্যে না দুনিয়ার মধ্যে সবচেয়ে বড় পার্টি কমিউনিস্ট নয়, ভারতীয় জনতা পার্টি, দীনদয়াল উপাধ্যায়ের পার্টি, শ্যামাপ্রসাদের পার্টি।
What is the Chief Minister saying in his speech? He says that a person, the president of the Bharatiya Janata Party, when he was the president, informed that Sri Lanka and Nepal remains and they have to extend their victory to Sri Lanka and Nepal as well. He mentions 2 people in his speech. One is the gentleman you see over here, Mr. Amit Shah, the current Home Minister of the Indian government, who was the leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party for a period starting from 2014 to 2020. And the other one is Mr. Ajay Jamwal, who you see on screen here, who is very instrumental in carrying out the activities of the BJP along with a paramilitary wing attached to the BJP called the RSS. Now, these are the two people that the Chief Minister of Tripura is mentioning in his speech when he speaks about the BJP extending its political power in Sri Lanka and Nepal. With everything that is happening around us, with China on one side, with India on one side, I ask again, these countries are to protect their own interests. These countries are trying to increase and expand their power in the region. But when this is happening against this backdrop, who is going to protect the interests of our country?
Anyone can express views, but it is the people that vote for them. If they want, they can start a political party by going to the Elections Commission office, meeting the proper criteria and filling out the necessary forms. There are a lot of such political parties. When voting, we can see a lot of parties down the list. If the Elections Commission and the law of the country accepts it, then they can come and take part. Our government will never give in to foreign interventions.
ಭಾರತೀಯ ජනතා පක්ෂයේ සභාපති අමිත් ෂා එවැනි ප්‍රකාශයක් කළ බවට නිශ්චිත සාක්ෂියක් නැහැ.
There are no solid evidence to support that President of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Amit Shah, made such a statement. Chief Minister of Sripura has said that he made this statement while having a meal. A third faction is also saying that he made such a statement. We know that branches of the Communist Party were established in other countries. Even though the stance is of that, we believe that the patriotic people of this country will not let a foreign political party gain power through politics.
බලයත් පත් කර ගැනීමට ඉඩ ලබා දේවියයි අපි විශ්වාස කරන්නේ නැහැ.
1939 දී ඉන්දියාවේ අගමැතිවරයා වෙච්ච නේරු මෙදියත් වෙනවා ලංකාවේ වතුකර ඇතුලේ තව පක්ෂයක් ගොඩනගන්න.
In 1939, the then Indian Prime Minister interfered with Sri Lanka, creating a political party within estates of Sri Lanka. Then he changes the name of the party to Ceylon Workers' Congress. Then it was given to the Thondaman family. India has two aims. One is a military aspiration. The second is an economic aspiration. When moving forward, India has obstacles. Then India knows that it needs to interfere politically to remove its barriers. That's why at present, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is saying that a branch of his Bharatiya Janata Party should be established in Sri Lanka. Digambaran has said that the Adani company is good. Thondamans and Digambarans are together. What are they saying? They are paving the way for Indian intervention. Today, this patriotic government has failed to do that. By now, the government is waiting to plunder these estate lands.
පාර කපලා දෙනවා. ඒක වළක්වන්න අද වර්තමාන දේශප්‍රේමී ආණ්ඩුවට බැරි වෙලා තියෙනවා. වතු ඉඩම් ටික කොල්ල ගන්න මේ වෙනකොට ලේස්ති වෙලා ඉන්න ආණ්ඩුව.
අපි පැහැදිලිවම දන්නවා LTT ත්‍රස්තවාදය.
We clearly know that the LTT organization got training and got stronger because of the support that they received from India. There are certain groups who are aligning themselves with China. Some are aligning themselves with the United States. Against such a backdrop, India is now trying to dominate in Sri Lanka. It is when they do not receive an opportunity to do this that they conspire and try to control us in this manner. The government of Sri Lanka must prepare their foreign policy in a manner which would not result in Sri Lanka being the victim of superpowers of the world.
වහාම තමන්ගේ විදේශ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය සකස් කරගත යුතුයි.
රට ඇතුළේ විනාශය ඇති කළා.
They created a crisis in the country by taking over the representatives of the Tamil political parties. Money from India funded their activities. If we are in this state with that sort of intervention, just imagine what would happen to us if a branch of the BJP is established in Sri Lanka. Not only civil wars, this country will re-enter a colonial era. So we would like to say that if the president spoke of nationalism, the government must take action against this. We would like to question the government as to what their dealings are with India that created wars in the country, killed state leaders, imposed sanctions and ransacking our economic strategies, assets or took them over by force. We request the president not to allow the Bharatiya Janata Party to engage in politics in Sri Lanka.
වහම් BJP පක්ෂය ಭಾರತೀಯ ජනතා පක්ෂයට මේ රටේ දේශපාලන කිරීමට ඉඩ දෙන්න එපා කියලා අපි ජනාධිපතිවරුන් ඉල්ලා
Sumantiranla ekka. A march was organized by people including Sumandiran in the north. The Muslim youth in the east were also invited to join hands with them. Even India must be behind these efforts to create chaos in the country. Now there's a program to unite the Tamil youth in the north and the Muslim youth in the east. Hakim and Batiuddin are also behind these efforts because they know that if this extremist movement is defeated, they have no future. While creating an alliance between the Tamil youth and the Muslim youth, there is an effort to get the estate workers involved in this as well. These are the shadows of what is truly going on right now. The launch of the Pohottua party in 2017 signified the arrival of China. The Pohottua is a part of the Chinese culture. We see the arrival of the Pohottua as a cultural invasion from China. Today, the Pohottua is everywhere, including at the Lotus Tower. In the end, the people want to worship a snake carrying the Pohottua. This is a different angle of the Chinese invasion. The Pohottua is not something that is Sri Lankan. In the end, the Pohottua became an extension of the Chinese Communist Party. That is what has happened right now. In the end, this has now begun to invade the Buddha Sasana, and the Pohottua is even given to the Venerable Theros. This is how the Chinese culture even made its way into the temples of Sri Lanka. This is the Mahayana tradition. This is not the Theravada tradition. Now, in addition to the existing troubles, the BJP has said that they want to create a branch here in Sri Lanka. That is why we said that the 20th Amendment was created for this purpose. They are going to govern our nation.
Following other views expressed by the Trinikayaka Samagri Bhikshu Sangsadaya in Colombo today regarding the current conduct of the government.
This group of people who came into power to protect the environment has now started to destroy the environment. They have created room for their close allies to destroy the environment as per their whims and fancies. This government came into power to do one thing, but they are doing another. We have to direct our attention towards the hardships faced by the agriculture community. We have to understand the economic crisis they undergo due to various issues such as fertilizer problems and problems revolving around pesticides. This government is trying to chase away wild elephants. How can this government, who cannot get rid of a small insect in the paddy field, take care of the wild elephant problem? The government has said that 50% of the paddy has to be given to them because the fertilizer is given to the farmers for free. But the reality is the farmers have to spend an amount between 35,000 to 40,000 rupees to cultivate an acre of land. Therefore, this government has to immediately start a program that will distribute the national resources of this country in a just manner.
Our first
opinion is that a new constitution must be presented within this year. A constitutional council must be formed instead of the parliamentary council. The influence on the legal system must be stopped. Immediate action must be taken to launch an investigation on large-scale fraud and corruption, and the perpetrators must be brought before the law. A methodology must be invented to control the unbearable cost of living. A proper plan must be put in place to eradicate the COVID-19 pandemic forever.
Welcome back. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. It is a known fact that decisions of subsequent governments have caused drastic changes in the fuel prices here in Sri Lanka. The Cabinet has now given approval to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation to obtain foreign exchange for debt management.
As
a result of continuous trading losses, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is in debt of 600 billion rupees. In other words, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has been bankrupt since 2008. Once the Cabinet was informed regarding this threat of bankruptcy on the account of the CPC, a subcommittee was appointed under the patronage of the Prime Minister. The other members of the committee are Minister of Power, Minister of Energy, Minister of Industries and the Minister of Fisheries. Yesterday, the Cabinet decided to allow the CPC to directly purchase foreign exchange needed for them from the foreign exchange market under the approval of the central bank. As of now, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has been gathering its massive amount of dollars from the People's Bank and the Lanka Bank. The Cabinet observed two advantages, including the CPC being able to buy the required amount of dollars from the foreign exchange market for concessionary rates and the government being able to maintain a stable exchange rate.
The
Colombo Stock Exchange was hailed as one of the best performing stock exchanges in the world. However, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in negative today after its benchmark all-share price index declined by approximately 4.13%. The all-share price index dropped 326 basis points to close at 7,580 today. LOLC Holdings, Browns Investments, Browns and Company, Valuable One and Expo Lanka Holdings were the main contributors to the change of the ASPI. The more liquid S&P SL20 index dropped 131 basis points to close at 3,032, a drop of 4.15% compared to its previous close. Daily turnover reached 4.2 billion rupees today. Still in local news, today marks 33 years since popular actor and politician Vijaykumar was assassinated. A commemoration event was held today opposite the Vijaykumar Memorial under the patronage of former President Chandrika Kumaratunga.
After paying floral tributes to Vijaykumar Memorial, the group, including the former president, engaged in religious observances. Following the event, former president expressed the following views to the media.
ඒකට උත්තරයක් දෙනවා වෙනකොට hina වෙන්න විතරයි පුළුවන් මේ වෙලාවේ. ඔබතුමීලාගේ සිහිනේ ඉතින් කවද්ද ඒක අපි මේ රට මේ දැනකට ගෙනියන්නේ සිහිනේ තද. ඒක අපේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ අතේ තියෙන්නේ.
That is in the hands of the people. We develop the nation and some other people would destroy it. Then we would come to power again and the cycle continues. So the country cannot develop in reality. The people must change first. If the people are to change, the education system must be restructured. We need political leaders of a different caliber. We need young, educated politicians who would not rob and who would not make this a business. It doesn't have to be people from rich families. They should be honest and people who genuinely want to develop the nation. Even during the tenure of my parents, we had the non-aligned movement and we had good foreign relations. I followed that as well. The people who are in power now do not have an understanding of foreign relations. When Mahinda Rajapaksha was in power, they did not care about diplomacy. Now the country has been destroyed. We are a colony of China, even though we do not say it. Now the people are shouting that something or the other is being given to China. If you look into the bank accounts of the trade union members who are shouting, we would have to question as to how there are massive amounts of money that came into their accounts.
Trade union wala aya anit aya me aya hitapu gaman koti ganan ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා හිතන්න වෙනවා.
Fears are growing in Japan over an inoculation drive against COVID-19 that will begin tomorrow, where millions of doses of the Pfizer vaccine could be wasted because of a shortage of special syringes that maximize the number of shots from each vial. And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. To follow details of these stories and more, you can of course follow us on our social media platforms and log on to our award-winning website, www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Brian De Cruz. Take care and God bless.